Now move on to edit the user. So into our controller, users controller, we have method edit, and we need to give ID here, and we can dump that ID. Let's click on ID, and we are having an ID here 5. Okay, so comment it, control /. Okay, now in an edit we need companies, categories, users, roles, and all these models and their tables data we required in when we need to edit. So we can pass our data array. First one is roles, and we can access this user and the role method in our user in our use. So here we are method roles. Okay, data companies. So this companies, and we use a where user method. In a company model we have a where user method. You can check out what it is. Okay, let's control L to select and duplicate. Now select control D, this second one, and categories where user, and in a user, so user, and this will be the users. Okay. Save it. Okay, this user, and we have roles, companies, and categories. Okay, this user roles is roles, company, user. Let me dump the user, because we need a single index. It will send an object or array. So data and user. Save it. Come back and let's send this undefined property. Which one? Controller, user, controller, categories. Categories. Save it. Refresh. So here in a user model, now we are getting a user model, and we just need the record. Primary key. So in so this is the array of object of an array. So we need a single object which is fillable field, and it is at 0 index. So how we can fetch this object of array? So we can simply get data user, and we can say in data user, in this object we need array, we need an index which is 0. And now when we will write down this, so we can easily fetch the record of user of that ID. Okay. Excuse me. Let's refresh. And when we click on edit, so this time is null. Because it is null, so this user into this user, and okay, this user first send users, and here data user, this users, and where method, where user ID, this ID that we are passing here. Okay, we will pass this ID to this, save it. Remember when we create this user method, so we have an ID is null. Now we are passing the ID of a user into this null, and if its ID become auth user ID, to this become the parent ID, current logged in user. So its ID uh, parent ID. Okay, if ID is parent null, then we are passing this ID. And here we are checking if ID not equal to null. Now we are passing in our method the ID of the user. So if it is not null, then where ID is ID, and find the all the records there where ID is this, and will get the record. If ID is null, then there is no. Now we are passing the ID to this where method in our user controller. This ID is come from edit ID, that we are editing ID. Okay, and let's see. Now we will have a value. So see, we have an ID 5 and all its fields. So before that, we are getting the object of array. We need a single array of first fillables. So I have did what I did. So I did just indexing zero index at zero index. There is a fillable. So we are need required to this, and we are sending this to our model. Okay, and also we need that ID that we are sending. Also ID and the ID that we are sending here into edit. Okay, let me comment it. Excuse me. So now need to return view. So return view review our view is under user dot edit file, and we will send this array data. Save it, and in edit we need to extend our layouts dot main, and let's create a section content, and this section and section. Okay, so in an edit we just need to copy the our create layout code, so that when we try to create our user, so we use the same code template to create a user. In edit, all the fields are the same, and we have to need to copy and paste all that. This is it. And right now I am selecting in users create.blade.php and selecting all, control C, and in edit now I am pasting it, control V to paste. Okay, layouts main content, and we need to edit, where it is, edit user, edit user, and the form that will be submit will go to not this time user to our store. So we'll send it to user.update, user.update with ID, user ID. So user ID. Here in our controller, we are sending this to user data ID. Okay, user ID. We need a company ID, country, state. Okay, the name field will be the same, email same, password same, all the fields will be the same. And where it is the password, because we have to comment that field. User cannot update the password right here. We will create a profile where the user can pass the password to change the password. Okay, comment it. Phone, city, address, postcode, role. So, excuse me, a role. So in a role, we are sending this role, and we are iterating roles the same that we have did it in a user creation. Okay, save it and let's check our browser, refresh. So when we click on edit, so we have a layout, and its layout and name, email, phone, city, address, postal code, role. And we have now we need to display the because the actual fields of the user. So in input field, so input field we need to, not this time old, we need to username, username. Let's copy this username. In an old value field, we will put user email and a phone. phone, city, and here the value will be the address, and in a postcode, where it is, postcode, the user post underscore code, so role will be the same, and all the field will be the same. So save it, and let's check in our browser. What it is. It's not saved. It is, you can see a circle. So save it, and let's refresh. So we have a name manager, email, phone, and its ID. Now it can edit, and we can send the update request. So when it can choose a select, there is a problem. So this user has now selected the companies. This user has two companies that have been selected, only Rana Fan and the department. So they are not checked, and this is the message. Bug. It is not the bug, but if we have to secure that all the selected fields, that when we created a user manager and we allocate our companies and the department, so when user can the user will be edited, so the all the check mark of its selected company and the department will be checked. So we will cover this in the next video. So we have now displayed this to a user, so we can easily edit it. So stay tuned.